I'm going to explain the delay-oriented effects in this lesson, so to follow along, go to Working Files, Projects, and open up 1904 Delay Effects. We're going to work on two clips here, the Just Couldn't Be That Way solo, and the group shot here. There we go. I've got a third clip on here for a reason I'm going to explain in just a second. This clip has all the delay style effects on them. There are 5 we're going to work with here: chorus, flanger, delay, multi-tap delay, and reverb. I have phaser on here for a reason I'm going to explain in a moment. When you work with monaural clips and apply chorus to it, it's best if the monaural clips are converted to stereo. That's why I've got 2 clips here. This is the original clip. This is the mono clip. You can tell it's mono by double-clicking on it and viewing it here in the source monitor. But it's best to convert that to stereo if you're going to work on that with the chorus effect. So to convert it, you go down to that clip and highlight it here in the project panel. Go up to Clip and Modify, and then Audio Channels. That'll open up this dialog box. It'll say mono when you open it up here. You switch it over to stereo, and that'll add this extra channel here. And it'll say none here when you open this up as a mono file. You just change this to 1, and that puts the 1 track in the left and right side of this stereo file. So click Cancel it now because I've already done that. So the second one, I did that to it. But if you put a clip on the timeline like this and then change it, this one won't change, just the ones that you apply afterwards, just so you know. Let me go over to the Effect Controls panel again. I have this one selected. Put the current time indicator right there. I want to start with chorus. I'll open that up. Click on that. I'll open up the custom setup. And if you take a look at this, you might go, it looks familiar. Why does it look familiar? Let me pull this thing out so you get a better look at it. Hang on a second. Hold on the controller command key. Pull this out. I'm going to stretch this out quite a bit here so you can see more of the real estate there. And I'm going to open up the phaser. Take a look at it. And lo and behold, it looks very familiar. The controls for the chorus effect and the phaser effect are exactly the same, with the only difference being the extent of the delay. If I go over here, the extent of delay for the phaser is 4 milliseconds. The extent of delay for chorus is 25. And if I go down a little bit farther and take a look at flanger, it too has the same setup. Only difference being its delay, which is a maximum of 20 milliseconds. They all have the same front end. They all have the same interface, but there's something different going on behind each one of them. But in terms of how you run the controls, they all work the same way. So let me close this one down, and go back up here to chorus. What chorus does is to make little delays in an attempt to sort of thicken the music, to make it sound like there are more voices or more instruments. It also can have some strange little effects as well as you go through these presets. So let me just run through some of these presets here. Here we go.
You wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that way. Yeah, I know how much you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that way. Oh, I know how much you wanted me to stay.
Hear that one going back and forth. Those are the various presets for chorus, and then you can change the controls down here as you've done before with the phaser. Now this is a relatively simple chorus effect and doesn't really work the way some chorus effects work in terms of just adding some number of voices. Let me show you the Adobe Audition chorus effect. This is Adobe Audition with that same file in it.
But it just couldn't be that.
I'm going to apply the chorus effect here. I'm going to go to Effects and go on down to Modulation. Now, modulation refers to pitch changing or key changing, and so these effects really are modulation effects. I kind of grouped them into the delay effects. I also want to include delay and multi-tap delay. But let's go on the chorus. You notice that chorus has a default of voices. If I go down here and say 5 voices.
That way. Yeah, I know how much.
So there are some presets here that do sound like what you'd expect, multiple voices. Here's an acoustic duet.
But you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that.
So you can get a sense that Adobe Audition really steps up quite a bit when you deal with audio effects. Let's switch on back to Premiere Pro. All right, let's move on down the line here. Turn off chorus and turn on the flanger. It really is pronounced flanger, folks. Some people call it flanger, but it is flanger. It's based on old reel-to-reel tape drives. Back in the 60s, folks would set up 2 playback machines, 2 reel-to-reel playback machines, all going to one recorder. And then somebody would stand next to one of the machines or both of them and put their finger on the flange. That's the thing that holds the tape. And I would slow it down for just a moment to give you kind of a warbly sound. Let me just go through a few of those presets for you. Here we go.
Stay, but it just couldn't be that way. Yeah, I know how much you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that way. Oh, I know how much much you wanted me to stay.
There you go, all kinds of possibilities with the flanger. Turn that off. There's delay, and delay is essentially an echo. We could call it echo and be just fine with that. It says how long the delay is and how much feedback and how much of the mix. The feedback says how much of the delay gets mixed in. If you have a lot of feedback, then it just builds and builds and builds and gets kind of crazy. Let me just play this for a second here.
Me to stay, but it just couldn't be that way.
So you see it repeats once, essentially. Now if I take the feedback up a bit, we'll try that again.
Yeah, I know how much you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't.
See here how it sort of tapers off. It repeats and repeats and repeats. And the mix is the same kind of thing you've seen before. How much of the original and how much of the affected version do you want to play in there? 1 second's kind of a long delay. If we play it a little bit shorter, it starts to sound more like a reverb, like a room. I'll play this down to something much less, a little bit like that.
You wanted me to stay,
it's beginning to
but
sound
it just couldn't be that
like the phaser or the flanger or chorus.
way. Yeah, I know how much you wanted me to.
There you go. That's delay. Multi-tap delay is 4 delays built into one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's the same kind of routine. You get a feedback and a level. So how loud is the delay? And how much of it is returned in the signal.
But it just couldn't be that way.
It can get pretty messy, so you might want to drop down the dBs to nothing or have no delay at all. And some of these guys just have 1 or 2 or 3 delays rather than all 4. But that's delay basically 4 times. Finally, there's reverb. And reverb is intended to give you a feeling like you're in some kind of a place. Usually it's a large hall or something. I'm going to go back here and show you the presets. You've got this small room, these various other settings, church, large hall, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go through here and let you see what that sounds like. Here we go.
Stay, but it just couldn't be that way. Yeah, I know how much you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that way. Oh, I know.
Now, if I take a look at the custom setup and just watch how these things change as I flip through them, it just moves those things around. And you can physically move them just by grabbing these controllers here. As you do that, you can listen to the changes over here.
But it just couldn't be that way. Yeah, I know how much you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that.
There you go. This is a relatively simplified version of reverb. Let me show you the Adobe Audition version of reverb. Go over here. We take that same clip and go to Effects and Reverb, and you'll notice there are 4 reverbs here plus surround sound reverb. It can be really complex. One reverb like this one uses what's called an impulse file. It's actually an audio file, just a little moment of sound that was taken in a particular place, and that place is then reproduced here. I'm going to try something like medium-sized cave. We'll try that. Listen to that for a second.
But it just couldn't be that way.
And there are several other kinds of reverbs available inside Audition. Let me switch back to Premiere here. I want you to listen to what the reverb and flanger sound like when you've got a full instrumental group going here. Try flanger here first, turn that on, go through some of the presets.
All of my love in return. I never said that's what I wanted. Make this a lesson, honey, that you learn. Well, I know how much you wanted me to stay.
So it sounds kind of cool with a large group like that. Let's switch over to reverb. I think you'll see that reverb with a group like this sounds less metallic.
Expecting all of my love in return. I never said that's what I wanted. Make this a lesson, honey, that you learn.
There you go. Usually you apply reverb to individual instruments when you create the mix, but applying it to the whole thing like this works as well. You just maybe want to tone it down just a bit. Nevertheless, that's just a basic rundown on the delay-oriented effects here in Premiere Pro.